Morning, guys. I wanted to bring something light for a feel good Friday. So I'm so excited to have our guest on this morning. I know Ruthie Ackerman is an award winning writer. Ruthie Ackerman we just met in the best way. I'll tell a little bit of the story. Ruthie was coming to write about Shift Maui, and a friend of mine who's in PR, Amy, introduced us. Ruthie will tell you more about it when she gets on, but it's really cool. How are you this morning?
I'm doing all right. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. And I think a couple of the Maui girls are on here. I know Dawn
Yes.
Marie's on here.
Hi,
I know
Dawn.
Sarah sent me a message. So I was telling everybody a little bit that we kind of met because you were coming to write in Maui.
Hmm.
And I also shared that Yola was there and that like none of us knew.
So
And we
crazy.
were all there. But will you tell everybody a little bit or whatever you want them to know about you?
Sure. Specifically about meeting you and about Maui, or just like my life in general?
No, about who Ruthie Ackerman is.
Ruthie Ackerman, Once Upon a Time. So I'm a writer and a journalist, and I'm working on my own novel, and I also teach writing classes. And when I got the email from Nicole to come join in Maui and be with all of these other amazing women, it couldn't have been more perfect timing because, first of all, I should say also that as a journalist, I had been at the time a deputy editor at Forbes Women. So I'd always been working on and around women's leadership. So hearing about what Nicole was working on and the amazing women that were going to be on this trip, I just felt like I couldn't say no to that experience. And at the same time, I was having my own personal shift, I guess you could say, trying to get pregnant and really struggling. And I had written a piece for the New York Times, a Modern Love piece, about what that had felt like to go through those fertility experiences, and then meeting Nicole and having the opportunity to come to Maui.
You're gonna make me cry.
Aw, and having the opportunity to come to Maui at the same time I was, trying.
And had never been to Hawaii.
No, never been to Hawaii.
Will you tell a little bit about your like whatever you want to share from your experience?
Yeah, of course. So there were a few things that happened, and please talk, fill in anything that I miss. But first of all, there was the paddle boarding experience.
Yes, that is number two on my list.
Okay.
So
So
go.
first of all, I'm terrified of heights I mean, it's not even heights, but like standing up on a board in the middle of the water, it's like the whole experience was so scary to me. And the weird thing is I'm from Miami. I'm from South Florida. So you'd think I'd be like super comfortable in waves and all of that. Anyway, none of that is my thing. I'm a city girl at heart. And Nicole, I still remember like standing on the board, and you're chained to this
You were
board.
sitting.
That's true.
First you were
That's true.
sitting.
I was sitting. Nicole's gonna keep me honest here. I was sitting on the board, and everyone else, literally everyone else, was standing. And Nicole,
By the way, that was the most magic. I mean, the whole week, and I'm not just saying this to toot my horn, but it was so powerful and so magical. But it was also very much a work experience for me, where everybody, as you know,
mm-hmm,
like I had no idea there was a whole nother world going on,
mm-hmm.
because I was just so like, guys, if anybody wants to do their own retreat, A, it's not so easy, and B, it's not a retreat for yourself, it's work. But that paddleboard hour for me, it was like I finally had a chance to like be with you guys and be at ease and like do my thing. And I remember identifying so much in you because you're like, nah, I'm just gonna sit, I'm cool.
I wasn't going to do it at all. Right. And then I was just going to sit. And then everyone else was standing. And you were telling me that it took you such a long time to finally stand. And then I like finally did it, but I was shaking the entire time.
It was like I was like a proud mom.
And then we saw these amazing turtles just swim by, which was like another whole special experience because I'd been waiting all week to see a turtle because I was told there'd be turtles. And so it was
Right?
incredible.
But the one that was on the top of my
Mm-hmm.
list, you mentioned heights,
Mm-hmm.
was we went to this really magical sunrise that
Mm-hmm.
started the entire experience at a place called Haleakala. And Haleakala is known as one of the heart, I guess, the heart chakra
Mm-hmm.
of the world. So we all went up to this like 2 hour drive to this sunrise, and we were literally above the clouds. It was the most magical thing. And they have almost like a park ranger who's super spiritual, and she does this chant. And she talks about the sacred spiritual this land, and I'm getting chills. And I remember she was talking about loved ones past, present, and future. And I knew, and I don't know what Ruthie had shared with everybody, but I knew that Ruthie was there to write about everybody goes on a baby moon. I'm going on a baby moon, but I don't have a baby. And so what that's like for someone, which you can share. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
saying, I was like, this is going to happen for you. Like, did you hear? They said loved ones in the future. And like I knew in that moment, and maybe it's one of my gifts, and I felt it, and I knew that maybe Ruthie's struggle was gonna get easier. And then I remember you missed one of like the one workshop or whatever you missed. It was because what happened in the ocean.
So this is interesting. So you had told me, first of all, future, and you had said like, oh, I know you're going to have a baby. And I was thinking like, yeah, like what, like, how does Nicole know if I'm going to have a baby? Like I've had the best fertility doctors and they haven't been able to get me pregnant, but Nicole says she knows. And then it was Peter's workshop. And so Nicole had been saying all week, if you have to, the one workshop you have to go to, and I mean, all of them you have to go to, but this is the one you have to go to Peter's workshop. So I've been planning all week to go to this workshop. And then I go swimming.
I'm not laughing.
No, it was like I go swimming right after lunch and I get knocked down by this huge wave that's like this wall of water that just like crashes into me. And first,
Wait, hold on. I have to interrupt you. And guys, this is before she paddleboarded.
this is
So after this experience, she still went back out like a badass to conquer some more fear.
that is true. Yeah. So I lost my sunglasses. My top comes off. I mean, all the things happen in this crazy wave, and I'm like really triggered by it because I like hit the bottom of the ocean. It was terrible. So I text Nicole and I'm like, I cannot go to Peter's workshop. Like I'm just completely, out of it and feel terrible. And then I forget someone on the trip, I forget who it was basically like, you have to talk to Peter and see if he will like meet, like of all people you needed to be there. And I said, Nicole said the same thing. And she walks me over to Peter and she was like, Peter, will you spend, whatever it was, 15
I
minutes
didn't
with
know
her?
how that's how that happened.
Yes. Yes. So Peter and I made a plan to meet the next day. And Peter talks about limiting beliefs and all of these, I mean, beautiful things. And he was like, I know you have not been able to get pregnant before now because of, these limiting beliefs and all these things from my childhood. And, I won't bore you with all of those details. Now's the big reveal. I'm pregnant.
Yeah, so
So 8 months. I'm giving birth next month, August 23rd, hopefully.
your gift of bringing life is just such a beautiful thing. And it's funny you mentioned your moment with Peter, because I feel like that was true pivotal, and I'll never forget that. I feel like it must have been Thursday or Friday
Mm-hmm.
that he said that, because I'll never forget. He was like, okay guys, Ruthie's off to go make a baby. It was hysterical. I want to ask you in a minute about the moment our country's in, but you're pregnant. We're in a pandemic. We're in like a major civil rights movement. You're in New York, which has been like, now you're in a much better spot. Like now we're in the hot spot. But New York's been awful.
Terrible.
What has that been like for you?
Mm. So it's been really crazy. Actually, the first few months was somehow better, starting in March was somehow better because everyone in New York was locked down. But now it's much harder because some things are open. And so everyone's kind of making their own rules and deciding what feels safe for them. And yet
Totally.
right, I'm still not feel, I mean, I don't feel safe because I can't take that risk for me or the baby.
Hold on, what's
Yep.
amazing, I just realized.
Hmm.
So Maui essentially really was your baby moon,
Yeah. I mean, yes, there wasn't a baby yet,
right?
but yes. Yeah, it was the
But it was
last
the
trip we
pre-baby
took.
moon.
Yeah, it was the last trip we took before all of this. So it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
so I also want to know about, the current moment of our
Hmm.
country that goes along with this.
Yep.
So it's like you were pregnant before COVID.
Hmm.
What, you were like 3 months pregnant,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
When COVID hit. And so it's like, first it was like wrapping your mind probably around all these times you've wanted so bad, so bad. I knew you were ready to give up.
Hmm.
Tried one more time, got pregnant. So it's like, oh my God, I'm going to bring this life into this world.
Yep.
And you had this world that was everything that you knew. And now all of a sudden,
Hmm.
everything that you knew is different. So I'm so glad I thought to ask you, like, what's it like knowing, I keep saying that like we're in this radical shift. What's it like for you in terms of thinking of bringing a life into that?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's so crazy. I read the other day that the Black Lives Matter protests it's like the biggest protest that's ever been, given, how many people in how many countries have been protesting. So to see that, and a lot of it's happening right outside our door. And we see people marching, across Brooklyn Bridge and right in our neighborhood. And, they painted Black Lives Matter on the streets right near us. And so seeing all of that feels like really exciting. It feels like a big moment. And so there's both the scariness of, the whole world feeling like it's imploding, and then also the excitement of renewal. Maybe this is a great moment to be having a baby. And
Right, like the upgrade.
mhm,
Like, what about it? I mean, it's like actually, excuse my language, but with all the shit
mhm,
2020 has brought us,
yeah.
there are some really cool, beautiful gifts.
Absolutely. So, really trying to think about and being intentional about how we raise our child in this world, and feeling grateful that we're in a community that people are thinking about those things, and that's important to us.
You physically not being able for whatever reason to be out there doesn't mean that you can't be part of the movement. Like,
When is a good time to have a baby? It's like it's always going to feel like there's better times. And especially being in a pandemic, right? You think like, oh, why do I have to of course, like I waited so long to get pregnant, and now it's going to be during a pandemic. But in some ways it's like we're already home. We're going to be home once the baby comes. So it's sort of, it sort of works out.
I want to ask you, so the current, we're in like a really, we just went into, we're in a critical moment
Yeah.
in our country. And the Black Lives Matter movement has come to the forefront of everything. As a journalist, as someone who is about humanity, what do you think has been like your favorite, not your favorite moment, but like the most inspiring or the most powerful moment for you, whether it was activism or protestation? Like, what's something that's really just stuck with you the most through everything that's been going on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's one that I could pick, but I will say that I feel like everybody I know in some way is waking up and noticing, not that they didn't notice before, but everyone's doing something. People are doing what they can. So I love seeing that. I also have loved, there's been kids' marches here, Black Lives Matter marches, where the kids all get together and march. And, we don't have a baby yet, but I love that idea that families are coming together. So I really see kind of the way, even in this most difficult moment, that whole communities are pulling
Right.
together, and that really inspires me. So yeah, there's not one particular thing, but it's a lot of things happening all at once, and these incremental
Yeah.
shifts are what make all the
Yeah.
difference.
So, in terms of writing and teaching and workshops, tell me about that a little bit.
So it's actually interesting that you mentioned the writing workshops, because um, over the last, since, COVID started, I guess the silver lining has been that a lot of people have found the time now to finally sit down and write that book or write that essay that they've been meaning to write. So my classes have been really, really full, which has been, a blessing. So the class is not only for, advanced writers, it's for everybody across the board. And I teach, it's memoir, a mixture of memoir, personal essay, and fiction. I bring in some of my favorite readings and we use those as launching off points for writing prompts in class. So you're actually generating writing in class. They're 6 weeks long. And if you want to know more about them, you can email me, ruackerman, ACKERMAN @gmail.com. And I'm happy to share more details. Right. RU Ackerman is my handle on Instagram.
During this moment, do you have any final words of wisdom to part for anyone?
Man, I feel like no one can be wise anymore. Like there's no wisdom, because it's like we're all going through this shit together. It's the first time. Anyone who thinks they know anything about this moment is lying. We're all just getting through. And that's kind of like one thing I will say is we need to just reach out to each other and connect.
Thank you, Ruthie. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I love you.
Love you.
Have the best day. And thank you for doing this with me.
Of course. See you
Bye,
soon.
Cutie.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.